Okay, thank you, Jason. Okay, so I'd like to call to order the Board of Selectmen meeting for Tuesday, September 29th, 2020. So before we get started with our agenda, I'd just like to provide the phone number for residents. Actually, we're going to talk about the residents section will be number 2 for our schedule item. So the phone number, if residents like to provide public comments, is 978-771-0819. Again, 978-771-0819. All right, with that being said, why don't we jump into our schedule items? So for 7 o'clock, we have alteration of premise application, Angelina's Italian Restaurant. So before we get started, this is a public hearing, so do we have a motion to waive the public reading?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
I have a motion and I have a second. So since this is a virtual meeting, we're required to do a roll call vote. So just for the residents, every week I'm getting asked, how can we do a roll call vote? Because we have to. So why don't we do that? Let's do a roll call vote. How do you vote? Mr. Kratman?
Aye.
Ms. Wellman?
Aye.
Mr. Brian Dick?
Aye.
Ms. Stronach?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye as well. So I do believe that we have Ms. Amato with us. So, Ms. Amato, the floor is all yours.
Oh, thank you. Well, this is huge for me right now. What we're trying to do is, as a restaurant, you all know how difficult it is from many industries, but for ours, it's been extremely difficult. And my main thing that I'm focused on right now is keeping my staff employed. And I've done so extremely well. And in order to keep them all employed, I need all my sections running for as long as I have them. The outside dining I'm helped me tremendously. And my gut feeling is that we have a long haul ahead of us. I'm not expecting this to end anytime soon. I'm not expecting to be able to let people in anytime soon. So I know winter's coming. I do have heaters, and as long as we can keep them out there, I will keep them out there. And again, the goal is to keep the business going so that my employees have jobs. And of course, to service the community that we love so much, get so much support from.
Okay. Absolutely understood. So what are the proposed changes that you're coming in front of the board for tonight?
It's exactly what I have out there now. I did all the floor plans back in March, April. What I've done is most of the restaurants, when they were allowed to do outdoor dining, they took spots in the parking lot. I didn't. I stayed within my means of the building. So I merely just added some beautiful planters under the cover up. Have you seen my restaurant? Have you come into my restaurant?
I think we all have. As a matter of fact, and just for the residents, we have all the paperwork involved. So I think if add a little more outdoor seating and potentially another restroom.
I have 3 restrooms now. Is that what you said? Restroom?
Yeah, we have we have bundles of paperwork as far as the changes. So what are the actual changes? We'll just cover the actual changes so we're not confused.
Yeah, the actual changes that I made was I put 7 tables outside along the border of the outside of the restaurant. Everything is under the overhang except for 2 small tables where we have an umbrella. Surrounding those tables, I have 4-foot-high steel planters that go all the way around. The only thing that was permanent that I did was I had I had these cement bowlers. What do you call them? Bowlers that
Balls, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, the cement ball is out there to protect
Yeah.
the traffic things.
I had those put in. That is the only real change I made aside from decorative.
So, Mr. Chairman, may I say something?
Please, please.
So if I'm looking at this correctly, Susan, it's everything that we permitted earlier. We already gave you a permit for all this, but the
Yeah.
permit was going to expire after a certain time frame at the end of the season, which I believe is like November, something that we allowed the town manager to issue the temporary permits for this. And now what you're looking to do is keep this as permanent to continue it on through the year. And I believe that's what we're going to discuss tonight.
That's absolutely correct. Thank
So
you.
there's no real changes, Mr. Chairman. I think everything is what we've already permitted. I don't think there's any change to what we've done. I think it's just to continue the, when we did that, we did a temporary license with all this. And I think it's to continue the license so that you can remain as long as you can while the weather allows.
Okay, perfect. So at this point, what I'd like to do is we'll open up the board for questions or comments. Then we'll pause. We'll open up to see if there's any residents that would like to speak on this matter. We'll close the public hearing and go from there. So why don't we start with the board? How about Mr. Kratman?
Yeah, so I reviewed this and I've been by there a number of times, Mr. Mato. I think you did a wonderful job. I actually was encouraging you to extend it more because you did have more room out there, but I understand you wanted to keep it quaint. You wanted to keep the family type restaurant. You only added a couple of tables instead of where you could have possibly put a tent out there like a lot of other restaurants did and extended additional things. But instead, I think you only added like is it 4 tables, 5 tables out there?
Yep, I have 3 on one side and 4 on the other.
Yeah, okay, so there's just a couple of but they're all underneath the underhang. It's a small tables out there. Some of them are 2, some of them are 4, but it's all.
Or they're all deuces.
They're all deuces? Okay, I thought there was a couple that were combined. But either way, they're all, I've been there, I've seen it. I think our engineering company has looked at it, looked at the ballers, the parking is safe, traffic cannot get into where the patrons are working. They made everything safe, they made it look beautiful, and as she stated, she's hiring Tewksbury residents, and she's keeping people working, and I applaud you for that. We want to encourage, we want to work with you, and we thank you for coming to us and asking and trying to find different ways during this difficult time to keep people employed and to keep your restaurant going. I mean, the small restaurants, the businesses are the backbone of this community, and we applaud you for coming up with different ways. I know you changed your hours of operations. I know you changed your lunch, different things, and you've done amazing things. And I know it's been very trying on you, and I applaud you, and I'm all for this. I would love to continue this and help you in any way possible. So I'll give it to the rest of the board members at this point. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Kratman. How about Ms. Wellman?
Thank you. I just wanted to, echo what Mr. Kratman said. Susan, you've done a great job there. The beautification committee has noted the work that you've done there prior to all of this. Your planters are beautiful. Your restaurant is welcoming, and you're doing a great job in a really hard time. So I support the permanency of your changes. I hope it works well for you and help you keep your staff employed and busy. So I look forward to seeing you again soon, and good luck.
Thank you.
Very good. How about Mr. Brian Dick?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Ms. Mato, for coming tonight. I'm supporting helping all businesses, especially our service businesses like the restaurants and bars. So I understand, what's going on with the industry and support anything that can help you continue to thrive in Tewksbury or survive. So I guess my only question, and this may not be to you, Mr. Amato, this might be to our chair or to Mr. Montori, but is this a permanent ask, or is it something where we should, I'm sure the snow is going to come, so it might limit outside access, but is this something we want to review in the spring, not just for this restaurant, but for all restaurants? That's a question to you, Mr. Chair, to Mr. Montori.
Sure, I would defer to Mr. Montori.
So this is a permanent change. If approved by the board tonight, this change will remain in place through now and until the restaurant feels they can't do any more outdoor seating, and then it will pick up again when the nice weather comes again in the spring. So this will be permanent. Now, any other restaurant that is interested in doing this, we've encouraged to come forward to the board because everything, as Mr. Crappen said earlier, all of the approvals have been temporary. And in order to be permanent, the Board of Selectmen formally has to have a public hearing and approve it. And we've encouraged other restaurants to come forward also.
Okay, so I guess, Mr. Chairman, and Mr. Mono, have you had any feedback from your abutters, any of the neighbors, any complaints or any positive reinforcement? Because I think it is a good thing. I love eating outdoors myself, so good.
They love it. It's still people that don't, and they love it. I've gotten nothing but praise from the support. We have a lot of people across the street that just walk over. It's been nothing but positive. I haven't heard one negative thing.
Okay, excellent. And I'm sure Mrs. Stronach may touch on it because she's always very thorough with the paperwork, but everything does appear to be approved, and anything that needs to be changed was done. I know there was a handicap thing that was removed. So I'm in support of helping, again, all the restaurants in Tewksbury. So this sounds like a positive thing for the community. So I'm in favor of this. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very good. How about Ms. Stronach? Oh, Ms. Stronach, just you have the red microphone there, that's all.
Sorry, did it go on and then off? My apologies. I just say that my colleagues said it very well. I'm not going to repeat them. I certainly appreciate all of the hard work that you've done to put this paperwork together because it was very well put together.
Thank you.
And I'm completely supportive of this initiative. And I actually encourage other people to do this as a permanent thing because I think even as we rebuild, it's going to be important to keep these businesses. And I think it's a draw for your business. So I echo your neighbors' thoughts. It's very well done. Thank you so much for contributing to the community. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, and before I open up the public, I'll just provide a few comments, short and sweet. I must say, yourself and your staff, you're first rate in this community. You can tell your passion, your love for the community. And like I said, your staff and your service is first rate, and your food is also tremendous, unbelievable. So I will pause there, and let's see, do we have anyone on the line, Jason? Anyone on the line?
We do have a caller, Mr. Chairman. Hold on one second. Caller, you can go ahead.
Hello.
Yeah, you're on. Just name and address for the record, please.
Hi, the name is Eileen Murphy. Address is 251 Apache Way in Tewksbury.
Okay, the floor is yours.
Hi, I'm hoping that the board does approve the request for the Angelina's restaurant. It really is a wonderful restaurant. I've gone there many times. I've introduced my brother-in-law, who at first would not go there, and I said, you have got to go there. It is now his favorite restaurant ever, and the food is wonderful. The wait staff is wonderful, so I hope the board really approves this. I think it's a good restaurant for the town of Tewksbury, and they've always done a wonderful job with their curb appeal, even before the COVID-19. It's just a very warm, inviting restaurant to go to. When I go in there, I feel like I've just entered a restaurant in Italy. It's just so wonderful, along with the music. So please do approve her request, okay?
Thank you so much for calling in. I think I sense a wonderful Yelp rating coming soon. So thank you very much for calling in.
You're most welcome, and thank you for listening. Bye-bye.
Okay, very good. Jason, any additional callers?
No additional calls at the moment, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, seeing none, I'd like to, do I have a motion from the board to close the public hearing?
No, I'll make a motion to close public hearing.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second? I have a second by Ms. Wellman. Roll call vote. Mr. Kratman.
Aye.
Ms. Wellman.
Aye.
Mr. Brown Dick.
Aye.
Ms. Stronach?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. With that being said, what is the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I was on the fence on what I was going to do with this, but after that call from that resident, how can I not approve this restaurant? No, we love this restaurant. I think everybody, every board member has been there. I think everybody in the community's been there. Everybody loves your restaurant, Susan. We don't want to have to show up at your house. So I say we make a recommendation to approve her license and continue her wonderful establishment in our community.
Okay,
Second.
awesome. Do I have it? Okay, I have a motion and a second. Okay, roll call vote. Mr. Kratman?
Aye.
Ms. Wellman?
Aye.
Mr. Brian Dick?
Aye.
Ms. Stronach?
Aye.
The chair votes aye as well. Thank you very much, Susan. Thank you so much.
Thank you all so much. I appreciate everything you're doing. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
very
you.
good. Okay, so our next order of business is residents. So I'm going to turn to Jason again. I know there's a little bit of lag, but Jason, do we have any residents that would like to make any public comments this evening?
We have no calls on the line, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, let's, in typical fashion, let's wait a minute. I know we have a little bit of a lag time. So with that being said, why don't we jump into new business? And our next order of business is Conservation Commission vacancy application. I do believe we have one applicant. And I'm going to look very quickly on our agenda.
Mr. Chairman, his name is Evan Walsh.
Thank you. Thank you. That's exactly what I was looking for. And I saw Mr. Evan Walsh, and his resume or his application was very robust, pretty unbelievable, actually. So with that being said, is there any discussion from the board? If not, what is the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to appoint Evan Walsh to the Conservation Commission.
I'd like to second that, Mr. Chairman.
I have a motion and a second by Mr. Brian Dick. Okay, very good. Okay, roll call vote. Mr. Kratman?
Aye.
Ms. Wellman?
Aye.
Ms. Stronach?
Aye.
Mr. Brian Dick?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye as well. Okay, thank you very much. All right, the next order of any additional any residents, Jason?
We should be all caught up. No additional residents.
Okay, so we'll just close out that section. All right, next, we have Ms. Denise Graffio. So we have an update from the town clerk, update on early voting and mailing voting for November election and special town meeting preparations. Denise, I know your plate has been so full, so thank you for joining us. And how are you and the team making out?
Well, thank you for inviting us. We are doing well. We obviously finished everything up with the state primary and have had time to be prepared for the upcoming big election on November 3rd, the state election, also the presidential. So I wanted to take a little time to explain to you the options for voters coming up. There's different ways that people can vote due to coronavirus. Early voting has been expanded to a great deal. So if I could just share my screen, I would like to talk a little bit about those. Oh my goodness gracious, let's see. Okay, are you guys seeing my, how do you want to vote in the November state election? No?
I don't think it's popping up just yet.
All right, hold on one second.
Denise, I just changed your role to presenter, so let me know if it doesn't come through okay.
All right, thanks. Sorry about that.
No worries.
There we go. It's coming through.
See it?
Perfect.
All
Yep,
right.
there it is.
Okay, so as it states in the flyer, early voting is available for the upcoming election The last day to register to vote is going to be Saturday, October 24th, by 8 p.m. in person, or there's online voter registration available, so that would close at midnight on Saturday, October 24th. The last day to apply for a vote by mail ballot is going to be Wednesday, October 28th at 5 p.m. And the last day to apply in person for an absentee ballot is the day before the election, which is Monday, November 2nd at noontime. So there are 3 ways to apply for a vote by mail ballot. So one of them is to download and complete a vote by mail ballot application. So all of the residents, all of the registered voters in the Commonwealth should have been mailed an application to complete. It's postage prepaid, and all you would need to do is sign and date that and mail that back to us, or put it into the drop box outside of Town Hall, or drop it off in person. You could also fax it to us, and the fax number is on the flyer. The email address is also on the flyer and our address. One of the things that I would like voters to know is that there's a great tool that is offered through the Secretary of State's website to track your application and ballot. So as soon as we receive your application and we process that through the voter registration system, you'll be able to track your ballot just by clicking on this link. This is all on the town website. All of these links are on our town website, so that under elections and voter registration, so that people can pull up these applications, pull up the voter registration application, the online portal to apply for either voter registration or a vote by mail ballot. So early ballots for the state election must be postmarked by November 3rd and received not later than 5 p.m. on November 6th to be counted. So those ballots can come back to us by any of those 3 ways: by mail, by fax. Actually, those are the applications, but the ballots could be dropped off in the drop box or mailed back to us or handed back to us in person. So if you do not choose to absentee vote or early vote, there's also in-person early voting, which is going to be offered for 2 weeks, beginning on Saturday, October 17th. And early voting in person is going to be at Town Hall, in the main hall. Personal protections are all in place. We are going to have sanitization of all of the surfaces, the voting surfaces throughout the day. We have plastic barriers up so that election staff will be behind plastic barriers and will be wearing masks. Gloves, extra masks will be offered for voters that don't have them, and the sanitizer at the checkout so that people can use this sanitizer on their way out, as well as the bathrooms will be open for people to be able to wash their hands. So these hours are beginning Saturday, October 17th. There's 2 weekends of early voting for those people that find it difficult to get to vote during the week. Saturday from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Sunday the 18th from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. And during the week, it's regular business hours of the town clerk. So that's from 7:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Voters just need to show up and they can vote in person. The second week, we are offering voting into the evening, which is also the last day to register to vote on Saturday, October 24th from 2 to 8 p.m. And then that Sunday from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. And then again, the last day to vote in person, early vote, is Friday, October 30th. And that will be at 4:30 p.m. And then, of course, voters that would like to vote at their polling location on election day, polls are going to be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. at our regular precincts, our regular polling locations. We are making some changes so that we can distance the voting booths at least 6 feet apart and try to eliminate, people having to wait in long lines. So that is also an option. There is a link on our website to check your polling location. We always ask voters to check to be sure that they know what their voter registration status is before they come into the polls. It's always good to have an ID with them just in case that's going to be required if they're inactive, if they didn't return their census, or if there's a question on their voter registration. They can always call the town clerk's office or email us. Our email address and telephone number is also on the website and on this flyer. So that's pretty much it for early voting. I didn't know if anybody had any questions.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Denise. Okay, let's just let's do a quick call out and see if anyone has any questions or comments. How about Mr. Kratman?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. I have no questions. We've done this a number of times, Mr. Chairman, and I think Denise and her staff is doing a wonderful job. Thank you for the update.
Okay, very good. How about Ms. Wellman?
Thank you, Denise, for all this. I know it's a ton of work, and I know there's a lot that goes into preparing those ballots and getting them out the door for folks who are doing mail-in voting. So thank you for your dedication and for you and on the part of your staff. And I appreciate the update.
Thank you.
Perfect. How about Mr. Brian Dick?
No further questions. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. How about Ms. Stronach?
Nope, I just echo the sentiments and the gratitude for you and your team, and really tremendous work. And we all know that the presidential election always puts tremendous pressure on your team. So thank you.
Thank you.
Exactly, Denise. So thank you to you and staff. I know it's very stressful, but you're kind of way ahead of the game. And you were well prepared back in June when we did the town meeting. And I think it's going to be no different here come October 6th, which is a good segue for our next agenda item. So I can't thank you enough. Thank you very much, Denise, and team and staff.
Thank you.
All right, very good. Like I said, Mr. Montori, pretty nice segue here for our special town meeting warrant review. And just for the residents, because a few have asked, all of us, essentially what we're going to do now is review the warrants. And what we'll do is we'll vote to adopt. It's a recommendation to adopt or not adopt any of the articles. And essentially what I tell residents is this particular meeting it's to take aim at the shortfalls, and I'm going to say add-ons to the 2001 budget, which runs through June 2020. So we put the budget out in June 22nd and June 24th. Now we look at the budget and say, hey, where are the shortfalls, or where can we potentially add on? And essentially that's exactly the purpose of this meeting. So with any further ado, I'd like to pass the ball. Oh, you're locked and loaded. All right, Mr. Montori, the floor is yours. Mr. Montori, you have the red microphone too.
So I was just trying to share the warrants. If I could stop, if I can get that on there.
Okay, looks like you're a presenter.
Yeah, I don't think I can share it.
I think Denise has to drop her first.
Hold on for 1 second. Can everyone see that?
Perfect. It's coming up.
Yep. Sorry about that.
No sweat.
Okay. So I'm going to quickly go through the warrants. The warrant was posted and was mailed out to residents. There were 6 articles on the warrant. A handout's been put together for town meeting members that will be posted to the website tomorrow. So people have time before town meeting to review it. Going through the articles and answer any questions you have on any of these items. Article 1 is a transfer of $525,442 from within the FY 2021 department budgets. The funding that is being transferred is coming from treasurer unclassified principal maturing debt. This $525,442 was originally budgeted for the potential debt service for a new DPW school maintenance facility. Since that project is being delayed, the funding is available both to offset a deficit, offset our financial deficit, which I'll talk about in Article 2, but it's also available to address some shortfalls we have within the FY 21 budget. The areas in the budget that we're seeking to fund, the first item is sick leave buyback, and this transfer of $120,000 will be used to pay for future liabilities and benefits for individuals who are retiring in the upcoming year. The second is $27,500 to be transferred into town manager operating professional services. These funds will be used for two items. $7,500 will be used for the annual fee for archive social software. The software is needed to archive the town and school social media that we utilize. It is a public record and needs to be properly archived. $20,000 will be used to pay for a consultant to assist the North and Trahan Reuse Committee to review the North Street and Trahan school sites for land use options. The next item, $800 for town clerk operating office supplies. Because of the amount of work and the amount of supplies needed for the primary, the town clerk had to deplete her operating office supplies, which is normally $800. This transfer will restore those funds for the remainder of the fiscal year. Under elections and town meeting salaries, temporary part-time, again, based on what was spent during the primary and what we believe is going to be needed for the presidential election and also for the local town election at the end of the year or in April, $19,500 will be needed. Same thing for elections, town meetings, salaries, overtime, based on what we spent during the primary, what we believe will be needed for the presidential election, $4,500 will be needed to be transferred in. And again, elections and town meeting operating office supplies, the amount of office supplies that were needed for the primary, looking at what we spent on office supplies for the primary and what we believe is going to be needed to get through what we believe is going to be a busy election in November, $5,000 is needed to be transferred into that budget. Going further down, police department capital outlay, $100,000 will be used to replace the chiller for the HVAC system at the police station. The current chiller is the original chiller and is at the end of its useful life. It is 25 years old. The air conditioning at the police department failed on a couple of occasions during the summer, and we'd like to get the funding in place so we can bid the work and get a new chiller in place over the winter. Under town facilities, grounds, and capital outlay, we're seeking a transfer of $50,000. The funds will be used for several items. The first is $19,295 to replace the infield at Antonelli Field at Livingston Street. $8,000 will be used to expand upon the irrigation system we have at both Antonelli and Ogden's baseball fields at Livingston Street. And then $22,705 will be used to purchase a new leaf box and an enclosed trailer to move equipment around for the facilities and grounds crew. Under town facilities, grounds, repairs, and maintenance, $36,600 will be used for general building maintenance throughout town facilities. Especially with COVID, I'm not sure what type of expenses we'll have over the remainder of the fiscal year, and I'm not sure what will be reimbursable or not, so I want to be prepared to have enough funding to address any issues. Under town unemployment, we do have a couple of people that are on unemployment that were actually on unemployment before COVID, and we need funding to get through the remainder of this fiscal year. School unemployment, 75,000. School unemployment could be higher than we have budgeted because of layoffs due to COVID. So we wanted to make sure we have enough funding in that account. And then finally, under streetlights, $51,542 will help pay down a short-term bond that we have for the streetlight conversion project to LED lighting. The plan is to pay that off over 5 years using the savings in our streetlight account. This $51,542 will help pay it off sooner. And that is Article 1.
Questions from the board?
Richard, Mr. Chairman, if you would. Richard, the LED lighting, that in particular I have interest in. I know we've updated a number of them in the community, and I believe there's quite for one thing, the lights seem to be a great success throughout the community because we can control the setting on those lightings. So there's a number of lightings where I know some people were complaining that they were too bright, and some of them were saying we didn't have enough light. So specifically down off of Livingston Street, they wanted more lighting where the fields were and make those brighter and lighten up the roadways. And then there's other ones where you have on roadways where they may be near residents and you can dim them at certain times so that they're not shining on houses and things like that. But the overall savings also is significant. Could you just give us a little bit on an update on that so the residents know what the savings is?
Sure, and that's a great point. So the savings that we're projected to have in our streetlight account is somewhere between $80,000 and $90,000 per year, maybe even a little bit more. This will be our first full year with the streetlight conversion in place. So we'll know over the next few months how we're doing, but the original projection was between $80,000 and $90,000 per year.
It's excellent. Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments from the board?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I know, Mr. Montori, that you had expressed that you were going to talk about the debt service and the DPW and taking this funding because we are not going to be moving forward with the DPW for this year, and given the revenue, I just want to check in to make sure that while we are utilizing some of that funding to help with the shortfalls because of our revenue, this is not something that we are putting off. And I just want to make sure that that is my understanding, and I want residents to know that I believe that that's the intention of this board and and you as the town manager, along with the DPW.
Sure. No, that's, again, thank you for bringing that up. So we are planning to undertake this project at some point. The plan right now, we are completing design of the facility. We want to have the facility ready to go out to bid if funding becomes available, to take advantage of a very good climate for bidding. We also want to be ready in case grant funding becomes available in any type of stimulus package. So we are moving along with the design of the project to complete it. The other thing is we worked with the design team to design the project in a way that it can be bid in phases. So if we weren't prepared to bring the full project to town meeting in May, but could bring, say, phase 1, which would be approximately $13 million. The entire project is estimated right now to be about $27 to $28 million. If we could bring a first phase of that project forward, that'll be a positive move for us. So We have prepared to finish designing this project in a way that we can adjust to bring a whole project forward, a phased project forward. And if funding isn't available for either, we'll wait until next fall to see where we are financially. But it's still going to be on the top of our priority list to do.
Thank you, Montori. And I just think that as a board member, I was pretty excited that we were able to sock away some money, as my father would say, to pay for this without having a debt override. So I know that sometimes priorities shift, and obviously COVID has impacted that priority shift, but I'm happy to hear, and I'm sure, hope residents are happy to hear that as well, that it's still a priority. And then I just have, just a little bit of a crazy question. I love that we're working on lowering our debt, especially for the street lights where we're having a significant savings. I'm just curious why the odd number instead of 50K, why 51,542?
What was left in the budget?
That number.
Yeah, it was what was left in the budget.
Okay, thank you.
And just one final point on Article 1, all of these items, with the exception of the archive social software, all of the other items are truly one-time FY21 expenditures. So they won't be built into the budget, each of these budgets. They'll be able to be pulled out and reallocated into FY22's budget where needed. And hopefully we'll be able to put it towards debt service for a DPW school maintenance facility if finances look better.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Thank you for mentioning that as well. I'm all set, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Wellman?
Thank you. I have no further questions on this article. I would make a motion for recommend adoption.
Okay. Mr. Brian Dick?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I guess just a comment, like looking at these, thanks for breaking out, Mr. Montori, this article for us to review. But just a comment that, you know, over $100,000 of this money that we have to approve at special town meeting is due to the COVID pandemic. You know, it's not something that's kind of fluff, I guess. So I just want to make that point that if we didn't have the pandemic, we probably would have saved about $110,000. Thanks.
Okay, Ms. Wellman, I know you have a motion. I just have a couple comments, and it kind of piggybacks on Mr. Brian Dick's comments. So, Mr. Montori, I know this goes without saying. However, just looking at other towns and cities, if you feel like any of these items are related to COVID, then let's call those out and submit them as such. I know we got a grant or some money, you know, north of $2 million. But as any community or town, we just want to make sure that if these are directly associated with COVID, that we call it out and seek reimbursement. That's all.
Mr. Chairman, we absolutely will do that. But because we never know what will be eligible for reimbursement or not, we'd like to just have all of the money available, and our plan is to seek reimbursement for any costs we feel are related.
Okay, very good. And last but not least, in very simple terms, because like I said, residents receive the pamphlet in the mail and they see all these numbers and line items. And the simple question is, if this is approved, I think I know the question, but our tax rate does not go up, correct?
For this particular article, no.
Okay, very good. And that's all I had. Thank you. So Ms. Wellman had a motion. Does anyone want to second that motion?
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote. And again, this is for the vote for adopting through the Board of Selectmen. So roll call vote. Mr. Kratman?
Aye.
Ms. Wellman?
Aye.
Mr. Brian Dick?
Aye.
Ms. Stronach?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye as well. Article 2, Mr. Montori.
So Article 2 seeks to reduce the fiscal 21 budget line items that are listed. The first being treasurer unclassified interest maturing debt, $564,975, and treasurer unclassified principal maturing debt, $274,558 for a total of $839,533 to be reduced from the FY21 budget. And the reason for this action is because at the close of the fiscal year, when we were able to review the town revenues, we realized that we needed to make an adjustment to our local receipts for FY21. And after reviewing our collections and what the impact of COVID was in the last quarter, all of our adjustments resulted in a reduction in our local receipts of $1,149,331. Those reductions were mainly in the areas of motor vehicle excise, hotel motel tax, meals tax, and sped Medicaid reimbursement. There were some others, but those were the major areas. The way we addressed this shortfall in revenue was in three main areas. The first was by reducing the budget by this amount in Article 2. The second was we are projecting additional new growth compared to the original projection that I put together when I presented the budget. That additional new growth will provide $398,785 towards this deficit, this revenue adjustment. And then finally, our state and county charges were $211,013 less than what I originally projected. So because of the reduction in the budget, because of the adjustment in new growth, and finally the adjustment in our state and county charges, we were able to address this revenue reduction in local receipts by all three measures. So Article 2's reduction will balance the FY21 budget. And again, we are taking it from debt service that was set aside for the DPW school maintenance facility, which we previously talked about that we will delay and postpone, hopefully until May, but definitely until we know we can afford it within the budget.
Okay, very good. And just what I'll do is I'll just do a quick, because it's virtual, I'll just go through the list if you have a comment. Perfect. If not, you can say no comment. So, Mr. Kratman.
No comment. I'm good.
Okay, Ms. Wellman.
I have no comment. Thank you.
Mr. Brian Dick.
No comment. Thank you.
Ms. Stronach.
I would just like to thank the town manager and his team for working on creative solutions and the funding mechanisms that we have, realizing the shortfalls.
Okay, perfect. And same here. I'm good to go. So what is the pleasure of the board?
I'll make a motion to approve Article 2 as presented.
Okay.
Second.
Recommend adoption. Okay, I have a motion. Okay, I have a motion. I have a second. Roll call vote. Mr. Kratman.
Aye.
Ms. Wellman.
Aye.
Mr. Brian Dick.
Aye.
Ms. Stronach.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Article 3, Mr. Montori.
Article 3 is a raise and appropriate article of $79,472.35 to pay for outstanding bills that were received after June 30th. The first is Middlesex Retirement in the amount of $9,265.23. This is an invoice we received for the town's contribution on behalf of employees who have been deployed for active or reserve military duty. The second is for Senior Town Council Charles Aroulis. We set aside funding for his June bill, but we didn't set enough money aside, so we owe $2,328.33 for the remaining portion of his bill. Unemployment Tax Management Corp. This is our unemployment bill from the Commonwealth, $61,048.22. This unpaid bill represents the months of March, April, May, June of 2020. When those bills came in, the actual total was over $116,000. There were many claims on there that we felt were fraudulent because of a lot of fraudulent claims that were happening throughout not just the state, but the country. We challenged all of those claims. The invoice was updated and provided to us in July, so it became an unpaid bill. This is the balance that we owe. We actually still have some claims that we're going to contest. So if it's lower than the $61,000, we'll only pay what we owe. But this is what the highest amount would be at this time. For town unemployment, Big Top Party Rental, this is for the stage rental at town meeting. Since we had town meeting late this year, the bill just slipped our mind, and we didn't get it till after June 30th and didn't set any funds aside. And same with the county press. This is for the typesetting of the annual report that goes on the website. And we also have some copies made to be held in the Selectmen's office and the town clerk's office. And again, the money just wasn't set aside to pay this bill. That's it.
Very good. And I'll take silence as no comment. So is there any comments from the board?
I just have a question, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry.
Please.
What was that unemployment number when it first came in again, Mr. Montori?
For those months total, it was approximately $116,000.
Okay, thank you so much.
Great call out, Mr. Stronach. Any other questions or comments from the board? Oh,
I have a quick question. I have a quick question too.
Sure.
Chairman, Mr. Montori, so the National Grid Electric, that's $5,300, but in June Electric, I was just curious why that money wasn't set aside for June. Was it just a hot month type of thing, or?
Yeah, actually, I totally missed that one. I forgot to explain it. That, again, was just a bill that we just didn't set the funds aside for it. That's for the town hall, the center fire station, and the annex. We're under 1 meter. And the June bill, it just got by us.
Okay, thank you.
We had the money in the budget, we just forgot to set it aside.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. Any other questions or comments? Okay, what's the pleasure of the board for Article 3?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to recommend adoption of Article 3.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, second. Take roll call vote. Mr. Kratman.
Aye.
Ms. Wellman.
Aye.
Mr. Brian Dick.
Aye.
Ms. Stronach.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Article 4, Mr. Montori.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Article 4 is for the transfer of $850,000 to be used for the to fund sidewalk design, installation, and improvements. Specifically, the $850,000 is going to be used for 2 sidewalk projects. $800,000 will be used for the installation of sidewalk on Shawsheen Street from Main Street to East Street. $50,000 will be used for the design of a sidewalk on Whipple Road between Pleasant Street and Chandler Street. The determination that Shawsheen Street should be the next sidewalk project was something that the DPW brought forward as part of their priorities that were laid out in the pedestrian mobility plan. The plan prioritizes installing sidewalks on main roads, and Shawsheen Street was the next road to be done. Shawsheen Street, when we were reviewing the priorities to bring forward, not only was it a main road, but it's a road that includes 25 streets that connect off of Shawsheen Street. 16 of those streets have adjacent neighborhoods. There are 60 homes along the west side of Shawsheen Street, 58 homes along the east side of the road. There were over 800 residential homes in the adjacent neighborhoods. So we felt with all the feeder streets with homes and the homes that are on the street, the road being a dangerous road, with this being a road that residents, when they came to the workshops for the pedestrian mobility plan, they felt 30% of them felt that this should be a priority road. This was just our next priority street to install a sidewalk. The preliminary estimate for the project is $1.4 million. 800 will be used from this article. We have 300 set aside from previous sidewalk articles, and then we'll use Chapter 90 to supplement the remaining project. I know there's been concern when this discussion has taken place with the Finance Committee that is this a good time to be spending $850,000? And what I have explained and what I discussed with the DPW and other departments when talking about capital, sidewalks are an important project for the community. It's something that the residents each town meeting talk about and want. If this project, if the financial climate does not improve, or if it gets worse, and we think we need this $850,000, I will have time to pull back the project because we plan to finish design and bid it over the winter. But I'm confident that our financial situation will be in a positive place that we can move forward with it, but we do have the ability to adjust. And finally, the bidding climate right now for all capital projects is very good. We saw that on the fire station. We saw that on the elementary school. So bidding this sidewalk project, especially a sidewalk project of this size and cost, it's a good time to bring it forward over the winter to start in the spring. So it's the only capital project we're bringing forward. We spent a long time discussing what capital projects that weren't funded at annual town meeting should be brought forward and what could be delayed until May of 2021. And it was decided that all projects, with the exception of sidewalks, will be postponed. So we believe it's a top priority, not only for us, but for the community. That's it.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Montori. So let's open it up to the board. How about Mr. Kratman?
Yes, I got a couple of comments. Mr. Montori, thank you very much for the update. But as part of this, I think there's something else that we should allow the residents to know. We applied through the Smart Streets program to get funding, and the town is putting up $250,000. But over the next couple of years, because we're meeting the state's guidelines and doing these safety improvements, we're getting $400,000 in state reimbursements for some of these projects. So when we're doing a project that may be $650,000, only $250,000 is town funding. $400,000 is getting reimbursement because we're following their guidelines. And we must do some of these things where we must improve safety, pedestrian access, mobility, handicap access for a number of these parcels. And especially during COVID and people being locked in their homes and getting accessibility and be able to walk and be able to safely go up and down Shawshene. I couldn't agree more. I had a discussion with you, the town engineer, about this, and he brought up a very good point that this is something that the residents brought forward. This is not something that's new. The residents specifically, each and every time we had a meeting, they brought sections of roadways that they wanted done, and Shawshene was on the top of the list on a number of places. And if you can go by there, you see quite a number of people going up and down that road. And the speed limits have been changed out there to make it easier for people to get up and down. And this is something that I think will just make everybody in the community's life a little bit better. And people can enjoy their town and walk to places that they'd like to. So I think it's money well spent. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, perfect. How about Ms. Wellman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As a resident of a portion on this section of Shawshene Street, I can attest to how many pedestrians we have going up and down every day of all ages. The accidents and injuries that we've seen up and down this section of roadway. So it's really important to get sidewalks here. And I attended some of those sessions that Mr. Kratman referred to with the town engineer. And they did an excellent job engaging the public, having folks come forward and talk about and point out the areas that they want to see done. There are no sidewalks on this section of Shawshene at all between Main Street and East Street. So having this project done will provide tremendous access to this retail area. It will be much safer. As one of the oldest streets in town, it has some really challenging geometries. And that makes it difficult for motorists sometimes to see pedestrians, particularly at night. And there are a lot of folks who walk on the corridor at night as well, to and from jobs and retail opportunities. So I wholeheartedly support this. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, perfect. How about Mr. Brian Dick?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I think, thanks, Mr. Town Manager, to bringing forward, helping us get this on the warrant. I think it's a nice article. It'd be great to get done. I do appreciate, my final comment is I appreciate the town manager putting in at the end, if the financial climate is different coming out of COVID-19, that we can pull back the money, because I think that's more important at this point than the capital project of the sidewalks. But hopefully everything is smooth and moves forward, so we can do the sidewalks and we don't need the money to emerge out of COVID-19. Thanks.
Perfect. How about Ms. Stronach?
I agree with all of my colleagues. I too want to just applaud the finance committee and the town manager for having the foresight to think about, is this the best use of our money? I think that this is a project that has long been needed, and I am appreciative that if we need to adjust, we'll have the flexibility to do that pivot. So thank you, and I'm supportive of this article very much.
Okay, perfect. And Mr. Montori, just a comment here. I know we always think about different mechanisms for funding. I know we have the Community Preservation Committee, and through that we get what we call them CPC funds. Now, I know they're not, there's 4 different reasons we can use that: for open space, for historical sites, to create affordable housing, and last but not least, recreational facilities. And I'm not trying to split hairs here, but I think about open space, and I also think about recreation facilities where parents could, as an example, walk and carriage. You know, to me, that's recreation facilities. I know it might be a stretch, but the bottom line is I'd like to see if we can at least have our state reps and our senator write legislation to see if we can access these community preservation funds for sidewalks, especially in a community like Tewksbury, where we're lacking sidewalks, you know, everywhere. But we're talking about main streets, and I think the courts said no to this ask years ago. But I think it's really prevalent, and so my only ask, I don't think we need to take a vote, is to ask our reps and our senator to drive this, you know, through legislation to open it up to sidewalks and just kind of highlight the history and the need for a community like Tewksbury. Does that make sense?
No, I think it does, and I can make a contact with the delegation to see if that's possible.
Okay, very good. That's my only comment. Okay, thank you very much. With that being said, what's the pleasure of the board?
I will
Mr. Chair.
gladly. Go ahead, Jane.
Sorry, I was just going to make a motion to recommend adoption of Article 4. Article, where am I for? Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I have a motion or a second. Okay, I have a second by Ms. Stronach. Okay, roll call vote. Mr. Kratman?
Aye.
Ms. Wellman?
Aye.
Mr. Brian Dick?
Aye.
Ms. Stronach?
Aye.
The chair votes aye as well. Article 5, Mr. Montori.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This article will be amended at town meeting to insert the amount of money that we seek to transfer into the stabilization fund. I should have mentioned this earlier in Article 4. We had free cash certified last week in the amount of $3,305,815. By using 850, if 850 is transferred for the sidewalks, and we set aside the normal $600,000 for a possible snow and ice deficit, that would mean we have available to transfer into the stabilization fund the amount of $1,855,815. If we're successful in that transfer, that'll give us a new balance in the stabilization fund of $8,453,522. And what's important to note is we were, looking at undertaking the sidewalk project. One of the things that was in the back of my mind was that we will be able to transfer a substantial amount into the stabilization fund, have a healthy stabilization fund to assist us with any financial issues in the future. So Article 5 will put us in a very good financial position if anything happens with COVID in the next 6 months.
Very good. I want to ask everyone, any comments from the board on Article 5? Okay, seeing none. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, I do have a comment. I couldn't get off red.
That's fine.
enough.
That's fine.
I would just like to say that I am, and I think I've expressed this before, I am worried about next year's financial picture for the town, for the state, and for the country at large. I will just preface my comments to the town. And I remember when I came into office and we were looking at a very bleak financial picture at the time. We had no money in our stabilization fund. So I find this article comforting in some ways. And I just want to thank everyone because this is years of work by the finance committee, by the department heads. This did not happen overnight. And I just want to recognize that and the town manager and his financial staff for putting in the hard work, reassessing debt constantly, streetlights. I mean, it all adds up. And I am grateful to see that number.
Very good. Any other questions or comments from the board? Article 5? Okay, seeing none. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to recommend adoption of Article 5.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mr. Kratman. A roll call vote. Mr. Kratman?
Aye.
Ms. Wellman?
Aye.
Mr. Brian Dick?
Aye.
Ms. Stronach?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Article 6, Mr. Montori.
Article 6 transfers town land, certain parcels of town land to the Tewksbury Conservation Commission to be held under their care, custody, and control for the promotion and development of natural resources. The parcels are listed in Article 6. They are all parcels that were priority parcels to be permanently protected by our Open Space and Recreation Committee. Also on that list, it identifies the size of the parcels and their designation as passive recreation or strictly conservation land or active recreation. Again, these are parcels that have long been on the list of the Open Space and Recreation Commission to bring forward and permanently protect the land. So this article does that.
Questions on Article 6?
I do have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Please.
With regards to the Chandler well sites, which if somebody was looking at that, that's a significant parcel. And I know that the elementary building committee looked at that parcel as a potential. And the reason we did not use that was because of the wetlands and such. I just want to ask Mr. Montori if he could just speak to that site because that's quite a large parcel of land to be putting into this. Not that I'm opposed to it. I'm very much in favor of it. It's a lot of land. If we could just make a comment to that.
Sure. So that parcel, it was looked at during the elementary school building site search. And it's not only, it doesn't only have a fair amount of wetlands, it's a very difficult site to access. It abuts a fair amount of neighborhoods. So in the land that was developable was scattered. It wasn't, connected for one big parcel. But aside from that, it is a parcel that does have a great deal of natural resources, habitat, And it is a location that improvements have been made by the Open Space and Recreation Committee and the incredible amount of hardworking volunteers to create trails and walking areas that residents utilize. So it just is a perfect site to permanently protect and not develop. And as we again saw through the site selection of the school, it just really wasn't a good site for any town use other than this.
Thank you, Mr. Montori. I appreciate that. Just if somebody's paying attention and wondering what we're doing. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. Any other comments, questions from the board?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to speak in favor of this article. It's a lot of work that the Open Space and Recreation Committee did to identify these parcels with town staff, and I can attest to the quality of these parcels. They're fantastic. There's, as Mr. Montori said, there's a lot of really good trails back there. They're maintained mainly by volunteers. So by accepting these as Article 97 lands, the town is not incurring any sort of expense vis-a-vis maintaining those trails right now, as that is something that volunteers have really stepped up to do. We're really fortunate to have a lot of people enthusiastic about trails in this community, and it's evidenced by the quality of them when you go over there. And then additionally, the Whipple Road parcel that allows access to that pond and for kayaking and canoeing and all that fishing that folks do there. It's really fantastic gem that we have in our natural resources here in the community. So thank you.
Great call, Ms. Wallen. Great call. All right, with that being said, what is the pleasure of the board?
I'd like to recommend adoption of Article 6, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Okay, perfect. Roll call vote. Mr. Kratman.
Aye.
Ms. Wellman.
Aye.
Mr. Bragdick.
Aye.
Ms. Stronach.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye as well.
That is it, Mr. Chairman.
Before you
Ms.
close out, before you close out the warrant, I just want to thank the town manager for the supplemental informational handout that will be available at town meeting, but we had the pleasure of being able to assist us tonight as we went through the articles.
Well said. All right, Mr. Montori, anything else on your side regarding the warrant?
No, that is it, Mr. Chairman.
All right, very good. Thank you. All right, looks like we're still sharing. We can keep it up there. We're still sharing the state election stuff, but maybe Jason, if you reclaim the host, if you could, please. Okay, while we do that. So the next order of business for discussion is 2020 Halloween. So why don't I just preference it for the board and for the residents that we, as the select board, we have, there's no bylaws that we, the board, declare Halloween for Tewksbury or not declare Halloween as Tewksbury. However, historically, what we've done as a board is to simply recommend the day and the hours so that we don't, I guess the saying is run amok in the town, meaning we don't have kids ringing doorbells from 5 until 10. So we typically set the hours, nothing more, nothing less. So obviously this year, it's heightened alert because of COVID-19, but I still wanted to have this discussion with the board and just preference after speaking with the town manager and our director of the Board of Health. We also did some investigation work for CDC saying, what do we do as a town or as a community? So I wanted to put it on the agenda. For me, like I said, there's no bylaws to say what we should do and why we should do it. However, I do think that listen, we've been following protocols for social distancing and wearing masks and what have you now for about half of 4 months, almost 6 months. So we don't need to, quote unquote, review all the different protocols or get everyone involved because we've been doing it, whether we go to stores or outside or what have you. We've been following the protocols. So I'll open it up for discussion for the board, but I would just seek a recommendation for a motion to simply establish the times. And remember, if folks don't feel comfortable, residents, they can simply turn off their lights. And again, it's the responsibility of the parents and of the kids, obviously, to follow the protocols, which hopefully they've been following for, like I said, for a better half of 4 to 6 months. So I'm going to pause there, and I want to open it up to the board for discussion because we might have multiple viewpoints. That's all. So why don't we start with Mr. Kratman?
Mr. Chairman, I would talk to a number of public health officials. They believe that it's safe for this to happen. And the kids are going to get out. They're going to social distance. We're hoping they follow the governor's guidelines. Everyone's wearing a mask anyway. So we might as well get them out there, get them enjoying something, get some fresh air, and enjoy somewhat of what we can survive from this, we can salvage from this 2020, and let the kids enjoy themselves. So I'm in favor of doing Halloween at our regular hours, doing this 6 to 8, and letting the kids get out there and have some fun this year. And, you know, people can do the right thing and put the candy out if they need to in bulk and social distance, and I'm in favor of it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. How about Ms. Wellman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you mentioned, the town doesn't really have any statutory authority to set Halloween or to cancel Halloween. I think the only time it's ever been changed is due to extreme weather. And it's been moved as a community to accommodate folks with the power outages and so forth. So I support this plan. I think it's a great idea. I think it'll be great for families that want to participate, and for those who don't, there's lots of other opportunities and things that they can do. I did speak with Mr. Montori briefly on it and asked if the town could develop like an infographic or something to help remind folks. I'm sure everybody's sort of used to the routine at this point, but reminders are great. As we go forward, we can share it on social media and so forth about different protocols you can take. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. How about Mr. Breindick?
Thank you, Chairman, board members. I'm in favor of this 6 to 8. I think the hours are good. I agree with Mrs. Wellman. We can't really dictate what's going on. I don't see a big notice from our Board of Health saying don't do it. So I'm in favor of it. I think the parents, you know, can be responsible and take care of the kids. Hopefully the older kids also do the right thing as well. And then anybody not, like you said, Mr. Chairman, anybody not wanting to participate, you can just turn the lights off. So I'm in favor of it, 6 to 8. Thanks.
Okay, very good. Thank you. And how about Ms. Stronach?
So first, I would just like to thank you for your leadership for putting this on early and give people the time to think about how they would do this as a family safely. And as somebody who will be participating, maybe there'll be less people with lights on and I'll actually get a few trick-or-treaters this year. So thank you so much, and I am in favor of the plan as well. Thank you.
I said my piece, so I have no further comments. With that being said, what is the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to set the hours for Halloween from 6 to 8. Whatever day that is. Well, it's October 31st, but.
Okay.
Okay.
October 31st.
Do I have a motion? I have a motion. I have a second by Ms. Stronach. So roll call vote. Mr. Kratman?
Aye.
Ms. Wellman?
Aye.
Mr. Breindick?
Aye.
Ms. Stronach?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye as well. Okay, thank you very much. All right, the next order of business is a street name approval, Terramore Drive. So this is pretty standard stuff, right, Mr. Montori, where the new proposed street name goes through a series of checks and balances through our departments, and then they pretty much sign off saying, listen, the name works, there's no issues with the name, and then it's our responsibilities per the charter to accept that name, and that's why, that's why it's on the agenda. Do I have that right, Mr. Montori?
You do, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Any questions or comments from the board? What is the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the street name approval of Terramore Drive as presented tonight in tonight's agenda.
I'll second that.
I have a motion, a second by Mr. Stronach. Roll call vote. Mr. Kratman?
Aye.
Ms. Wellman,
Aye.
Mr. Brian Dick,
Aye.
Ms. Stronach,
Aye.
chair votes aye as well. Okay, perfect. All right, the next order of business is the November 3rd, 2020 state election warrant. And we're simply here, again, I call it a formality, but everything's in line, so we're just looking to vote for approval, and then we have to obviously sign off on that through Mr. Montori's office. So with that being said, what is the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve as submitted.
Second.
I have a motion, a second. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none. Roll call vote. Mr. Kratman.
Aye.
Ms. Wellman.
Aye.
Mr. Brian Dick.
Aye.
Ms. Stronach.
Aye.
All right, the chair votes aye as well. All right, the next order of business is acceptance of a $500 gift from Salem 5 Bank to the Police Department for the Tewksbury Common Gazebo to be lighted purple for the months of September, to honor the National Recovery Month, in October for the National Substance Abuse Prevention Month. Again, good stuff. Big thank you to the Salem 5 Bank for the donation. So again, it's our responsibilities to approve or not approve this acceptance of a $500 gift.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to
Please.
make a motion to approve this generous donation. And as a part of that, I'd like the town manager to send a letter of gratitude.
Great call out. Thank you, Ms. Stronach.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, roll call vote. How about Mr. Kratman?
Aye.
Ms. Wellman?
Aye.
Mr. Brian Dick?
Aye.
Ms. Stronach?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye as well. Okay, moving right along. General Bylaw Review Committee appointment. So, Mr. Montori, I'll turn it over to you. But on a few previous meetings, there's a significant need here to create a committee to review our bylaws, very much like we did the zoning bylaws, or we're still doing the zoning bylaws in our town, because it's been forever and a day that we reviewed our bylaws. So, anything further add? I know we have the mission statement, so the next really order of business would be to approve the committee and then seek applicants to actually staff the committee. Is that about right?
That is correct, Mr. Chairman. The mission statement was provided to the board. We have, as of today, jumped the gun a little bit and started asking for anybody interested to send in applications. And then the board needs to appoint a board member to the committee.
Okay. Do we seek to appoint a board member tonight?
It's up to the board.
Okay. I'm thinking about someone, especially someone that recommended it.
I'm gonna make a recommendation that we nominate Jane Miller to be our board member on this committee.
Okay. Well, I'll say Ms. Wellman just for a correction. Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Thank you.
I'd second that appointment.
Okay,
Thank you.
perfect. So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, let's do a roll call vote. Mr. Kratman?
Aye.
Ms. Wellman?
Aye. Thank you.
And, well, thank you for bringing it up to the board. It was it was significantly overdue. All right, cool. How about Mr. Brian Dick?
Aye. I approve. Yeah. Aye. Jane.
How about Ms. Stronach?
Aye.
Not me, but you.
Aye, and I'll vote aye as well. And I can honestly say, I think a number of us have got pinged from residents of the town, very eager to serve on this committee. And there's going to be a lot of heavy lifting for this committee. So again, Ms. Wellman, thank you very much for your leadership here. And thank you for all the hard work that's in front of you. So there's one other order of new business I'd like to bring up. I should have put it on the agenda, but I can still, as a chair, call it out under new business. So here's the deal. On a number of occasions, the board receives a note or a phone call to draft a resolution in support of something or some cause. Very frequently, especially on phone calls. So most recently, we did receive a request from a number of folks to kind of draft a resolution in support of the Tewksbury Police Department. So as a chair, what I want to do is offer my comments that I will open it up to the board for discussion. And again, it's only going to be my comments. I can only speak for myself on this board. So let me offer my comments, and like I do, I like to pass it again. We'll go through the board members to see how they feel. So first and foremost, I'm unequivocally cannot say enough how much I fully support Tewksbury Finest, our police department. I also feel the same way, by the way, about our fire department and our first responders. And residents say, you might ask why. I think for me, it's very simple. With family members of law enforcement, it kind of goes without saying that it's that simple that I don't need to sign a doc or put a document forward in support of our police, or for that matter, like I said, the fire or any of our departments, if you would, in Tewksbury. Again, that's only my opinion. So before I open it up to the board, I'm going to use this opportunity for a little call out. Speaking about our Tewksbury Finest. So recently, we had one of our finest, Lieutenant Thomas Casey, is retiring. So I asked the Chief Columbus to put together a few bullets. So I want to list those out. And like I said, then I've said my piece on the matter. Then we'll open up to the board. So a few bullets on Lieutenant Thomas Casey. So he's been a police officer with Tewksbury since 1999. Prior to that, he worked for the Suffolk County Sheriff's Department. Lieutenant Casey has served for a total of 30 years between the two. That's simply incredible. 30 years putting his life on the line. And just a few more bullets here. Lieutenant Casey has served as a patrol officer, patrol sergeant, detective sergeant, and patrol lieutenant. He's also served on the Tewksbury Police Honor Guard for many years. We see him at all the events, and has been a leader on NIMLEC. That's a regional response team for Tewksbury. He's also assisted on many events outside of Tewksbury, including the Boston with crowd control for all major events, Boston Championships. We probably could use them more. It's been a little bit of drought. Also the Boston Marathon, including 2013, and all championship parades. And most recently, the riots in Boston, and we've seen them throughout the country. So Lieutenant Casey has been an outstanding police officer who always treated everyone he encountered with dignity and respect. And most importantly, which I know he's proud of, he's a great dad to his 3 wonderful sons. So on behalf of the board, on behalf of the residents, I can't thank Lieutenant Thomas Casey enough. So with that being said, let's jump back to the matter of hand. Like I said, I've said my piece. Now I'd like to open up the board for discussion. So why don't we start with Mr. Kratman?
Mr. Chairman, thank you for bringing this up. I agree with you. For us to make a resolution would be almost to the point of at some point we didn't. I think I can speak for myself and a number of my board members. I've seen us. We've gotten glowing praise from our police department for our support constantly. If there's something that our police department needs, our fire department needs, our DPW needs, we always get it there for them. Especially if it's something in public safety or anything they're requesting, what do you need? How can we help you? When they have a national night out, when they have Safe Halloween, I see my colleagues out there, handing out candy, volunteering, being part of the community. Our police and fire work hand in hand. It's a great community. We've always supported it. I don't think we need to. When you're out there and you're doing it every day, I don't think you need to make a resolution to do what you've been doing day after day after day, which is supporting all of our departments, all of our public safety officers. And like I said, our DPW, our fire, our ambulance drivers. I don't think we need a resolution for every department. I think we continue to do what we've always done, support them, praise them, and thank them for their duty. And I think that's what we'll continue to do. But thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's the way I feel on the matter.
Thank you very much. How about Ms. Wellman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm glad you brought this forward. It's a topic of conversation in lots of communities, and I think Mr. Kratman's way of putting it is actually pretty erudite insofar as if we say something now, it's like we haven't said something in the past. We do show tremendous support, and we have a legacy of showing tremendous support for our police officers. And again, I wish Lieutenant Casey a happy retirement based on what you had said earlier. I wanted to add that our police department's very well trained and has a legacy of being well trained. And They do an exceptional job. So I think it would be great if we took more time to recognize things like, national dispatcher, public safety dispatcher days, and those kinds of recognitions, as our police department has taken the lead to change the colors on the common to look at National Recovery Day, National Substance Abuse Prevention Month, those kinds of things, on top of National Night Out, the bike rodeo, Safe Halloween, and so forth, as Mr. Kratman said, are all parts of the ways that we work closely with our law enforcement personnel. So those are my thoughts on it right now. Thank you.
No, thank you. Good, very good feedback. How about Mr. Brian Dick?
This is simple for me. Congratulations to Lieutenant Casey and all those before him and all those who will come after him. I think our chief is doing a fantastic job in the town right now. Support him wholeheartedly. And I want to make a shout out to the armed forces. You can't forget them. But, I saw, I think the town manager sent over, or Chief Clement sent over a video of one of our officers removing a cup from a skunk. So there's all sorts of things that they do. Fire, police, even our DPW do some services that are incredible. So hats off. I don't have to put my name on anything like that. Number one in my heart. So thank you very much.
Very good. How about Ms. Stronach?
I could not agree with all of my colleagues, and I just, as we're talking about the police and the fire and the DPW, it goes for all of our departments. The library, I got a breaking news about the work that the library is doing today. I mean, there's not, and I have to give a big shout out to our teachers right now who are crushing it out there. And, I couldn't be prouder of the people that work so hard in this town. And I too want to congratulate Lieutenant Casey, but in terms of calling out one group, I just think that we need to call out all of them because they all work really, really hard, and I appreciate them all. So thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I appreciate you putting this forward so that people understand why and how much we do appreciate them every day. And if we don't show it enough and people think we need to put our name to it, then we need to take a look at doing a better job of that. But I think we do when they come in and show their growth. School department coming in last week, the stuff that we get from the chiefs, both chiefs, and from the town manager for all these departments. It's amazing the communication that we get from these guys. So thank you.
No, and great call for the teachers and the faculty, the administration. I'm going to say even the school committee. It's been unbelievable, how those folks have pivoted very quickly in lieu of the pandemic. And last but not least, I'll say it's amazing let's close on another positive note for Tewksbury's finest. I think we've had 3 bank robberies in the last 60 days. And we have the benefit, I guess, to see all the different everything they do behind the scenes as far as all the arrests and all their policing is just incredible. And it seems like we get another note every day from the chief highlighting all their wonderful bodies of work to keep our community safe and sound. So I can't thank them enough. So, and thank you all for the board for the comments, and much appreciated. So, okay, very good. So with that being said, now what we're going to do is we'll move to the town manager section. And I think, Mr. Montoro, you have just one little section, but I would like to call out, I know it's not on the agenda, but we're going to be opening up the library, maybe just call out some of the work behind that, for the residents so they understand what we're doing there and when it's going to open. So why don't we start with the town council invoice, and then I'll put you on the spot that, like I said, to just update the residents on the library progress. Oh, Mr. Montoro, you got the red mic.
Sorry about that, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. I believe the board has 2 town council invoices, one for August 16th through August 31st in the amount of $2,720, and I would recommend approval.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion from Mr. Kratman, a second from Ms. Stronach. Roll call vote. Mr. Kratman.
Aye.
Ms. Weldon.
Aye.
Mr. Brian Dick,
Aye.
Ms. Stronach,
Aye.
chair votes aye as well.
And I believe the board has a second invoice for town council for September 1st through September 15th in the amount of $2,677.50. I'd recommend approval.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
By Ms. Wellman, thank you. Roll call vote. Mr. Kratman,
Aye.
Ms. Wellman,
Aye.
Mr. Brian Dick,
Aye.
Ms. Stronach,
Aye.
chair votes aye as well.
And then finally, Mr. Chairman, to your point, and thank you for bringing it up, the library does plan to reopen on a limited basis beginning Monday, October 5th. All of the glass barriers and sanitizing stations have been installed. Actually, the new glass that's been installed looks really nice. They did an excellent job. It's taken longer than we expected, but they did a great job. You can check the website for complete information, but they plan to be open Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. and Tuesday and Wednesdays from 5 to 7. Curbside services will continue from 2 to 4:30 daily, Mondays from 2 to 7, and in cases during which guidelines, there'll be strict guidelines to follow. All visits will be limited to 20 minutes per day. Contract tracing will be in effect, and occupancy and area limits are going to be in place also. And then finally, masks must be worn at all times. Browsing will be available in all areas. Some computers will be available. There'll be staff assistants in all departments. The one day the library will be closed will be on November 3rd because of the presidential election. But other than that, Monday through Friday, those will be the hours. So I know the library director and the trustees are excited to be opening up, even though it's on a limited basis. We know residents will be excited because they've been calling, asking when the library is going to be open. But in addition to the library, the DPW will be open to the public within the next week. Their glass has been installed. As you know, Town Hall and the Town Hall Annex have been open to the public since July. The only other facility not open yet is the senior center, and we're just going to take more time to ensure that we can open safely for our seniors. And that's it.
Okay, excellent, wonderful news. Thank you, Mr. Montori. Any other topics, Mr. Montori, on your side?
That is all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right, very good. Let's move into minutes. Ms. Wellman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the regular session of the Board of Selectmen for March 10, 2020.
Okay, and the reason, I know Ms. Stronach is the clerk, but I believe these minutes fell under your jurisdiction. Is that true?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
All right, I thought I got it right. I know it's getting late. All right, I have a motion for the March 10th meeting minutes.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion, a second. Roll call vote. Mr. Kratman?
Aye.
Wellman?
Aye.
Mr. Brian Dick?
Aye.
Ms. Stronach?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye as well. Now, I think for the June 2, I'll turn it over to Ms. Stronach.
I would like to make a motion to approve the June 2nd minutes as presented, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, I have a motion, a second. Roll call vote. Mr. Kratman?
Aye.
Ms. Wellman?
Aye.
Mr. Brian Dick?
Aye.
Ms. Stronach?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Last but not least,
Can you give me the date of the next?
June
meeting?
17th. June
it's okay.
17th.
It's
June
June. You
17th.
got it.
Sorry, thank you very much, Jane. I would like to make a motion to approve the minutes of June 17th as presented, and also want a big shout out to Melissa taking over the role from Ms. Wellman, so I appreciate that, Melissa.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, and just for discussion, Miss Melissa is wonderful. So I have a motion and I have a second. So we need a roll call vote. Mr. Kratman?
Aye.
Ms. Wellman?
Aye.
Mr. Brian Dick?
Aye.
Ms. Stronach?
Aye.
The chair votes aye as well. All right, it brings us to board member reports. Let's start at the tippity top. How about Mr. Kratman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The whole regional transit board meeting, we held that last Thursday on September 24th. They gave an update on that they're trying to get back to full routes, and the ridership is picking up slowly, and so things are looking good. They're using all precautions. I would like to give an update. The administrator from the Lowell Regional Transit, Mr. James Scanlon, who's been the administrator for many years, previous Secretary of Transportation, announced his retirement.
Wow.
Many years of service, great service to this community. There's not one time that I've called him and said, you know, I'd like to see a little bit of additional service to service the seniors, or look at different routes, or get a shelter where it's needed, you know, where people are standing out in the rain, or anything that we need. He's saying, let's go look at it. I'm always open to ideas, and we'll get it done. And he's always been willing to work with the community. Great gentleman. I have nothing but respect for him. I want to congratulate him for all his years of service. And I'd like to make a recommendation to the board to send a certificate or a letter of acknowledgement for all his service. And I make that as a motion to the chair, if you would appease me with that and send something over to him to thank him for all his years of service.
As a chair, no motion is required. It's a no-brainer. Thank you very much, Mr. Kratman. That's good stuff.
Okay, next I have economic development. We had a meeting earlier in the month. We got everybody back together. A lot of topics discussed regarding COVID and the wonderful work by our assistant town manager, specifically Steve Sadwick, working with all the local businesses, taking the lead when we needed him the most, getting out there and being like the point person as the restaurants and the businesses, and working hand in hand with the town manager. But Steve has done yeoman's work going out there, talking as people need things, coordinating through our health department, our board of health, our planning, the selectmen, just being a point person and being somebody that's great, taking the lead and being proactive as we need them during these difficult times. So I want to thank him. And the last thing I have is, it's not a board report, but at our last meeting, I had requested that we send citations to, we had the 9/11 memorial that took place, and the board signed it right after our last meeting, but I just want to call them out during our meeting. We signed a citation thanking them for putting their thing, and I'll read it out for one of them if you would appease me for 1 second. So the citation reads, "The members of the Tewksbury Board of Selectmen, thank you for your many years of service, efforts, dedication, coordination of running the Tewksbury 9/11 ceremony. As member of the Tewksbury 9/11 committee, your efforts have endured. Tewksbury will never forget the dreadful day. Tewksbury will always honor the heroes of 9/11 and the memorial pledge never to forget." And it was given this 15th day of September, signed by the whole board. That was issued to Mr. James Carter, Mr. Richard Kuko, and also Mr. Robert Fowler, who have been on that committee for a number of years and did a wonderful job. With that said, we also had something else that was added to this ceremony this year. And I want to give great kudos to Miss Darlene Lockhart of the Tewksbury Elks. She went above and beyond, and she applied to create a hailing field and a field of honor. 200 flags were presented and put up on the library field next to the 9/11. It showed that Tewksbury cares, they'll never forget, and it looked awesome. It was, I saw a number of families going down there and taking school pictures with the flags. I got so many calls of people saying, we love the fact that Tewksbury's taking pride. It looked beautiful. I loved it. It's brought something that we dearly needed during these difficult times to remind everybody that we work together as a community. And there was many hands that put it out, but specifically Miss Darlene Lockhart took the lead on this. So we get 2 citations. One is to Darlene Lockhart, and the other one is the Tewksbury Lodge of Elkton Hall. But it says, the members of the Tewksbury Board of Selectmen, thank you for your efforts and presented a Tewksbury with the hailing field of honor, consisting of 200 flags at the 9/11 memorial, a fitting tribute to the victims of 2001 terror attacks and those heroes who willingly encountered danger and death in effort to save others. Given this 15th day of September, 2020 as well. And I want to thank our board members for sending these citations out. We do have people doing wonderful things in this community, and they should be called out every now and then. And I really appreciate what they did for our town, and it gave you chills driving by there. And I really appreciate everybody's efforts. And thank you to our board. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Update, Mark. Great update. Thank you. How about Ms. Wellman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the NIMCOG met on the 16th of September. And one of the things that we talked about, well, it was actually great to see Jay Delaney from the planning board there. He's joined the NIMCOG as a counselor. So it was great to see him participating. We're doing all of our meetings remotely just like this. We also discussed the Route 38 paving project, which is at 75% design. Some of the costs have increased on that. So they were talking some about how those costs will be covered, and they're planning on advertising it later next year. So there'll be more information coming on that, but it was a good meeting. We also, the director there, Beverly Woods, created a draft equity statement. At a lot of organizations and governments are drafting these statements, and I passed it on to the town manager. I don't know if that's something we want to take up down the road. So, and I'll send it to the board so you can review it before we vote on it at NIMCOG. Additionally, the TMHS Theater Company announced their production today. Their fall production will be Romeo and Juliet. And since they can't do it in a theater, they're going to have a digital production, which should be very interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing how they can do that. And I reached out to Mr. Dorrington to see how he can help get that out on our cable system for the community to enjoy later this fall. The Beautification Committee is doing its cleanup day this year, where COVID precautions are in place. That is 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. on Saturday. And then they're also doing, the Massachusetts Mosquito Control Project is doing a tire donation. So folks who have tires on their property, they can drop them off at the DPW. There will be a contactless collection. They'll pop your trunk or whatever, and volunteers will take it out. So that is great news. And that, again, is on Saturday. For folks who'd like to participate, you can go down to Town Hall on Saturday morning and get some supplies, including these special yellow trash bags. And we will be dropping those bags off at DPW. There won't be roadside collection this year. So it's going to be great. And then I also wanted to give a shout out to the Tewksbury Public Library for their Job Seeker Network program that they have. I know there's a lot of folks that are out of work right now. They've also done a special program for folks that are over 50 and out of work. And I think they're really addressing a need in Greater Lowell, actually. So they're doing a fantastic job. They meet via Zoom, and their next meeting is October 5th at 2 p.m. So thank you. Thank you to my board members.
Updates. All right. How about Mr. Brian Dick? Let's keep up the positive momentum.
Nothing to report, Mr. Chairman. I want to say thanks to Mark and Jane for their updates. I'm sure Mrs. Stronach, I'm looking forward to Mrs. Stronach's update right now. Thank you.
All right. Beautiful segue. Ms. Stronach.
Thank you, Mr. Dick. I appreciate that. I also want to thank Jane and Mark for their shout outs and their reports. And I couldn't agree more with Mark about that flags. It was pretty amazing driving by that. So I really appreciate that. Shout out to those individuals responsible for that. The only update that I have as a board member is that the elementary building committee meeting will be next Thursday. And I just want to note that we are back to 6 o'clock meetings. And then in terms of things that I am concerned about in the community again, I just want to say that we've been noticing in the news a lot of school districts across the Commonwealth having to be closed because of students participating in what I would consider potentially risky behavior as it relates to COVID. And, sports activities not following the precautions that they should be. And I would hate to see our community fall into that pitfall. So I want to thank the parents and our students for making good choices and remind people that it's really important to be personally responsible because your impact impacts other people and could potentially impact the entire school district. So I would appreciate just calling that out and thanking people for being responsible. It's really great to see.
Okay, perfect. And one more update. I promise we have 9 more minutes for the debate, so we'll be off by then. But as far as the Trahan and North Street Reuse Committee, Mr. Montour reviewed it earlier that we put in. We're seeking some dollars during the October 6th town meeting. He called out that line item, and we're seeking to secure a consultant to kind of provide that end-to-end expert advice for dealing with buildings for reuse scenarios. We're going to go on a limb here and saying there's a reason why we're building the elementary schools is that these buildings are 60 and 70 years outdated. So we have a hunch that these buildings are no good to the town. However, the consultant can do so many more things to help us with the decision-making process. So hopefully we can get that article approved, and then the reuse committee will be well on their way with expert guidance so we can determine in the next 6 to 12 months what we want to do with those parcels of land, because I know the entire community is very keen on seeing what we can do with those 2 parcels of property. So that is the update for the reuse committee. With that being said, look for a motion to adjourn.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Promise this is the last roll call vote. Mr. Kratman.
Aye.
Ms. Wellman.
Aye.
Mr. Brian Dick.
Aye.
Ms. Stronach.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Good night. Thanks, Jason.